Welcome everybody to the monthly meeting of the Rye Town Park Commission. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is October 15th, and please call the roll. We have two substitute commissioners this evening.
Commissioner Falanca.
Present.
Commissioner Salanitro.
Here.
Acting Commissioner Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Hurd.
Here.
Acting Commissioner Sousa. Thank you, Sousa. President Zuckerman.
Present. We have minutes to adopt. We have a whole list of them. The Park Commission minutes of September, August, and July 16th. We are going to skip over the minutes of July the 23rd. Commissioner Hurd had some comments that we will address at the next meeting. So for those three sets of minutes, I have a motion and a second.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody from the public wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none. Our first item is from a request from the Friends of Rye Town Park, and I think we have actually two requests. I think we do have a picture.
I don't see it. I don't know what she's got. All right, good. Thank you.
Nope.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. I wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm Diana Page, and I am part of the newly reinvigorated Friends of Rye Town Park. Jamie and I are two of the newer board members. Julian Radford is here tonight. He's another newer board member, and Russ Gold, who you know, is an ex officio board member of the Friends of Rye Town Park. And we join a group of about 6 board members, some of whom are very long-standing. We are in a process of sort of figuring out some corporate housekeeping that we need to take care of, and so we sent out an email for a proxy vote pretty recently that should be wrapped up in the next few weeks, and then we should move forward as newly elected board members. I also wanted to reach out, so all of our board members currently are from Rye City, but I wanted to appeal to the commissioners from the other resident communities, because we'd very much like for our board to represent all of our resident communities. And so if you have residents who are particularly passionate about Rye Town Park, we would love their names. We would love to reach out to them to have them join us. So please, Debbie knows how to reach me, Emily Hurd and Julie know how to reach me. Please do send those names our way, because we very much want this park to represent all of us.
Diana, I think that's a great idea. We had something like that last month, Jamie will remember, with the Soul Riders and the ribbons. And very happily, we have ribbons all over Crawford Park and in the village of Rybrook that I've noticed. So I think it's really great that all the communities get together for these very good causes.
Excellent. Well, we would love that. So we really do welcome any names. And I will turn it over to Jamie, who I know needs no introduction at all, to talk about.
Hi, Jamie Jensen, 588 Forest Avenue. So you have one. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. You have one document in your file, but there's actually 2 things we wanted to talk about tonight. So Friends, in its effort, part of what we're doing by, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Very
I'm
well.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Loud and clear,
I didn't know.
Jamie.
I keep watching the signaling. Okay. So the first is, we felt very strongly, you have this in your packet, last year when Julian and Katie Radford came forward as private citizens and you met with her to talk about the Christmas tree lighting. last year. It was highly successful. About 300 folks came up. It was a wonderful event. As we emerge as the Friends of Rydtown Park and sort of try to figure out our role, what we would like to do is give you a gift, the commission of $4,500 to make the tree lighting happen this second year. What we would like to do as a community is to be what we're supposed to be as a Friends, which is encourage people to come out, work with Barley Beach House, work with others. You see it in your proposal to bring cookies, to call the Rye Acapella Group. Emily Hurd was fabulous last year because she did a lot of that on the groundwork, so thank you, Commissioner Hurd.
Did she sing?
What?
Did she sing?
I joined along.
So we just think it's a really, really great event. We worry that it won't happen again, so we literally wanted to give the gift to the commission so that you can run the second annual lighting. So that's on your table for decision because it would be handed over to Debbie and her staff to figure out how to make that tree get lit. And that's a proposal for $4,500. We're assuming that will cover what you need. The second thing, which I haven't, so we'll have a moment to talk about that, but I just want to throw this one out to you also. The second thing, which I didn't give you...
Jamie, before you go to the second thing...
You want to talk about this?
Let's talk about the first thing. Commissioners? Comments?
Well, this is for next year?
This is for December 7th,
Season.
Saturday, December 7th. We have some ideas for some fundraising. We're talking about getting a photographer down to the beach and doing Santa on the Sound to raise a little money. So those kinds of things, so we can continue to fund these things in the future. It's always a sort of a challenge as a Friends group to figure out how to encourage community engagement and raise money, and at the same time recognize that your staff is running this park and doing a great job.
Do we have a resolution, Deb, in this packet to accept the donation from the Friends of the Park?
No, we don't
It's the
vote.
first we're hearing about it?
Yeah,
Huh?
I had a heads up a couple of days ago, but it wasn't.
I believe we need a resolution
Jamie,
to accept
the $4,500 for this year,
Yes.
is that dependent on the fundraising, or that's a
No,
given?
we have already committed as a board to give
Okay.
the money, and so that's the grant we would like to make to you. We're sort of really trying to be more formal about this and just sort of say we would like to give you the money to then go and get the tree lit. And then we will work as a community along with your staff to do the other things. We just don't want to handle the electrician and the policing and all that. I think that's the role of you all, and not our role. So we're really trying to recognize an important role of what a Friends community should do.
Well, I believe we need a resolution to accept the gift.
We can make an oral resolution. So the resolution would be to accept a gift of $4,500 from the Friends of Rydtown Park to be used
To light the tree.
to light the tree.
Basically.
Right?
Right.
Okay. That's the proposal.
Right, I just want to recognize that there was some sensitivity last year with respect to the fact that we did light a tree, and there was some verbiage about it being a Christmas tree lighting, and we have had conversations with Rabbi Groper of the community synagogue about participating separately, collectively, right.
Well, I've had conversations with Rabbi Groper, and it's not a resolution yet, but I will continue those conversations about a menorah lighting at Hanukkah time.
And
It's
so,
obviously not the same day because
It's not the same day,
this is
right.
December 7th.
This is
And
December 7th.
that
That would be a different event.
would be on
December.
actually
24 minus 9.
on the 24th, I think it is.
Is the first day.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Anyway, I just wanted to recognize that, so that it's just on the record, but we,
Who's marketing this then? Is Rydtown Park or is Friends?
To what?
22nd?
Hanukkah.
Okay.
But the tree lighting,
The tree lighting is separate and apart from anything else you might do as a commission or a town park. But it is an open public event. We hope everybody comes.
right, and my question is who's doing the marketing of it, and can we be sensitive to pan religion in doing so, or maybe not identify it with one? If it does cause sensitivity, could it just be a tree lighting, or does it have to be, are we calling it a Christmas tree lighting? Holiday tree lighting, okay.
I would suggest that, in Rybrook, we actually do both. So, we
we have a Christmas tree lighting.
We have a tree lighting and menorah lighting simultaneous.
There is no prohibition to follow the Christmas tree, lighting.
Right. I think actually now that I'm just trying to jog my memory because this came on later. I think the issue that arose was that it was the Rye-Town Park Commission doing some of the marketing for it, but to the extent that the Friends, but even if the Rye-Town Park Commission or board.
Well, I think the proposal is that this now become a commission event, like the Fall Festival was a commission event, and that we would handle whatever marketing is done. Is that correct, Jamie? That's your
I would
concept?
just like to add that it was like, I mean, the most memorable and spectacular display of the holiday season last year. So I'm so thankful to Julian and his wife for sponsoring it, and hopefully we can keep it alive. So I just want to.
I think what's wonderful about it is that there will be things that connect with the holiday. I mean, if we do a mini fundraiser on the beach with Santa on the sand, where kids can come get their picture taken with Santa beforehand and encourage people to go to Barley Beach House or whatever we come up with, it will feel very festive and everything else, but we can still be sensitive.
Yeah, I think that was my point.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for any, I didn't think it was illegal to do it. It was just how can we be respectful when we do it and be mindful of people who celebrate other things. That's all.
Julian Radford from 40 Oakwood Avenue. So I made this presentation last year to the board and graciously received approval to do this. We had at-length discussions around what we would call it, Christmas tree or and very much aware of any sensitivities and most of all, being a public park, what we wanted to do is draw people down there and enjoy it out of season and make sure it was something that was inclusive to everybody. And calling it a Christmas tree or anything didn't necessarily preclude anybody from going. In fact, we had many friends there from different religious and cultural and national backgrounds who came and enjoyed it. Some of it might have been their first time doing a Christmas tree and Christmas carols, and it's educational. This is actually what multiculturalism and inclusiveness is about. It's about education, including people. If we're talking about having a menorah down there at another time, and I assume that we're going to call it a menorah if it's down there, I'm assuming this would be called a Christmas tree as well.
The conversation about sensitivity or whether it should be on public or not on public lands, you should just know that the Supreme Court has determined that a Christmas tree, Santa Claus, are secular enough so that they do not violate the Establishment Clause. So you don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All good.
Owned by. Well, no, I'm trying to think.
My view on all of these things is, you can have a park or any public area where you totally prohibit any kind of religious display whatsoever, or you can allow religious displays, tastefully obviously, but once you do, it has to be open to all religions or no religion. So if if there's a Christmas tree celebration or a menorah for Hanukkah, somebody wants to do a Kwanzaa celebration or anything else, it's fine with me because the park is open to the public, and people of different religions, different creeds, etc., should be able to enjoy the park. And as Jeff says, there's a certain connotation about Christmas today that is much more secular than possibly it used to be, much to the dismay of possibly a lot of people, but that's the way it is. And I don't have any objection to groups coming in. Over at Crawford Park in the town of Rye, we have the same thing. We allow religious school to use the park as well. So people who want to use the park, enjoy the park, as long as we don't exclude people, in my view, is fine. So.
Great. I mean, is it possible to or would it be worthwhile, or is it just a waste of our time? I mean, my brain obviously doesn't operate farther than like 7 minutes before, so that's why, does it make sense to make a policy that states that, just so that it's something that we don't have to come back to every time, or do we just, will
No,
we
I don't think we
remember?
need to go through a
Yeah,
whole
okay.
policy thing, because then you're gonna start to get into all kinds
Okay.
of legal issues,
Okay,
and
but now,
how you word this and how you word that. For tonight, we're allowing, the tree lighting, so
great,
that's fine,
I
right?
support
Am
that.
I just want to go back to the request that was made of the municipalities to add additional people. How many people presently are around the Friends of the? I'm not familiar with them.
So we have 11 board members, and then Russ is also an ex officio board member.
Okay, and how many would you like from the villages that you've
I
asked?
think we're open-minded. I think that we don't want to get too unwieldy in size, because it's challenging enough, as you might imagine, to find a time that 12 people can actually get together and meet.
2, 3, 2?
But yeah, maybe 1 to 2 from each of the municipalities would be great. But if you have 3 that are super passionate and you want to send them my way, we're really welcoming, because we'd like all those voices to be heard.
Thank you.
Microphone, Jamie.
We also have members that have been members for a really long time that will be rolling off. So it is sort of in keeping with this sort of keeping energy and commitment. That's part of all the things we're trying to figure out administratively.
Great.
But we really want to encourage Portchester and Rybrook and Rhinebeck. So please. Do you need to deal with your resolution, or do you want me to go on to the next discussion?
No, I want to deal with the resolution.
Okay.
May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 2.
Don't get a point of clarity. So is the resolution passes a Christmas tree, calling it a Christmas tree is okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, you may get more people if you just call it a tree lighting, because everybody knows what a tree lighting is. Bottle filling.
So, I gave you all a picture, and I didn't send you any specifics, and we didn't send you any specifics, but this has been a conversation we've been having for a long time. Residents, in particular dog owners, joggers, walkers, bikers, all of those that sort of enjoy the promenade, which is the pathway along the beach across from the park, would love to have access to filtered water. Also, because there is this sort of growing notion and feel that we should be reducing our waste and avoiding plastic, it makes sense to have a water filling station in which people can bring their bottles that they have in their bikes or that they're carrying along and bring it to them. I can share this with you. You can have it in your document, but basically the reason why we didn't come tonight with a resolution or to ask you to accept a gift is because we're in a moment. We have shared preliminary, we went out and we found one quote. We have made a commitment to give up to $7,000 to the commission to put these water filling stations in. One water filling station with shipping and cost is about $3,800, and that doesn't include installation. So we have a couple of options. You can say, we would love to get one from you. We would like it to be at the North Gate. We think it's really important, since you have access to water there already. Talk to Debbie about this. That we would like it to be somewhere along that promenade to really acknowledge not just beachgoers, but people that walk up and down every day, all year long. It's about $3,800. Who knows? Debbie, in her brilliance, may get a better wholesale price.
Let me tell you something. I did a quick look at the station that I filled. You got a great price.
Okay.
But maybe if you're saying volume usually speaks, so you're only asking them to take like $300 off each.
So they gave me the exact same quote for one that they gave me for two. And then we haven't gotten any figures on your plumbing, but we know that you have an in-house plumber. So this is where I'm at. We have $7,000 to spend. We can give you one, which will cost about $3,800, or you all can decide you want to kick in, save some money, and get two. That's basically the discussion for you all to have. I didn't want to bring a proposal of the gift. I wanted to be able to give you that opportunity to have that conversation with us. We love the idea of using something like a water filling station as a marketing and fundraising tool. So when you have something there and you go out for our annual appeal as Friends of Wright Town Park, we can say, look, this is the kind of thing your money goes to. And it's best to do those kinds of things like the tree lighting, like the water filling station, to get people to buy in ownership. Gary's been listening to me for how long now, Gary?
I've been here.
You have to win over your community, and the only way to win over your community is to start doing stuff that they really care about. And so as long as people just perceive it as a revenue source for the beach and nothing else, they won't buy in. And so we're really trying to encourage local support. So this is another thing we wanted to do. And people love the idea of their dogs being able to have a fresh bowl. That's all I have to say. Welcome the conversation.
Jamie, I think one of the keys as to where it's going to go is where is the water line? Because if it'd be totally impractical to run lines all over the place. It's very expensive.
But the north gate has a bathroom
Right.
and water lines, so
Right, that's one place.
installing a bottle filling
the
station right there.
main bathhouse also has water lines.
Right.
Okay, and it would seem to me, and there's also a water line that runs from the bathhouse to the Barley Beach House.
So in some ways, this is our first introduction, so you all can have that conversation. It's basically inviting you to explore that with us. We'd like to move forward. We actually made the budget allocation. We really wanted to sort of start to see like we had a relationship with you that was formalized. We're not committed to giving that $7,000 yet. We are committed to buying one for you, so we're just open to the conversation. So you can take it under advisement, go back. Debbie and Russ can talk, figure it out. I just wanted to kind of give you the heads up.
I think that the water fountain idea is a really good idea, whether you put one in or two in or four in or however many. Beachgoers need water, and rather than having to buy water or remembering to bring a water bottle on a hot day, to have water available from a fountain is a good thing, and especially the one you've chosen has a dog feeder.
It's
So
also
that's
filtered, so there is an ongoing
Yeah.
maintenance cost, but it's minimal. But the idea that you're going to be getting people filtered water appeals
it's
to
excellent.
folks. Right.
Absolutely.
Is it chilled? Is it chilled water?
It won't be chilled
The
unless-
chilling
now you
isn't
need a-
optional. We've installed it both ways.
Yeah, but you would need. Would you need an electric line for that, or is it battery operated?
We need power.
All right, so we need electric and water.
Unless
Or
we
have
have
hot
just
water.
regular unchilled water. Dogs too hot.
People like chilled water, and they like filtered water. We'll work on it.
We need to talk about it.
The lovely thing about it, just so you all know, and this is back to my point, when folks see something, they'll go, oh, this is great, we'll help pay for another one. So it's not as if there isn't a future for more or for paying for some of this stuff, but until we get the conversation going, like this weekend at the Fall Festival, if you all in spirit like the idea of moving forward, then we will make sure we have materials on hand at our friends table to let people know this is one of the things we're working on.
Jamie, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Can you sell water bottles? What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's like shopping bags, right?
They don't last, but they don't last forever.
They don't.
So, okay, so we're taking this under advisement. We can work it. Jamie, you could work with Debbie and with Vic to find the best place for it and the best cost. There may be other manufacturers than this manufacturer that does the same thing, because we've installed at Crawford Park water fountains, not with a dog feeder, but water fountains, on two levels.
That is the one.
Is that the same one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the same manufacturer. Good.
Don't have to.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Diana, thank you for being such a great observer and participant and watcher of the Westchester Triathlon.
Cowbell ringer.
No, as I rhymed, she waved to me as I struggled by. All right. Next item, we have a request from the Barley Beach House for park entrance signs, but I don't see the Barley Beach House here.
I spoke with Bobby today, so I'm going to speak on their behalf and explain what they propose to do. Tom, could you give me a hand getting the visuals on the screen, please? Okay, it's red. Now what? Here we are. All right, so the Barley Beach House has requested, part of their agreement is they must get permission to put up signs. So in that spirit, they have sent us a request to put up 2 signs at the entrances. So here's one, and here, wait a minute. No, I've lost the other one. What? So did I.
I have one on the,
Yes, I put one into the,
when you hit the proposed,
yes, they're in the packet.
There's another one down there.
There.
right. There,
Oh, there it is.
it's right under it.
Yes, I just didn't manage to press the button. There you are, and then there's this one. Well,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So if I understand the location of this one, this is, someone help me with the name of the street.
It looks like
Right
that's the
Beach
intersection of Broad Beach Avenue and
Okay,
Forest
my
Avenue?
concern with this there is that people will then turn left onto Ryan Beach Avenue, which is not where you want them to go to the park. And so I
Yeah.
would,
Oh, that's
Dearborn,
right.
yeah.
You're looking at the, that looks like the,
It says
Garden
park
Dearborn?
northwest corner.
yeah.
oh, northwest
I know,
corner.
I was confused by that too.
Okay, so where is this?
That, if it's northwest
this is
corner, that would be
Dearborn, we're
Dearborn.
totally
No,
good.
no,
No,
northwest
no,
corner
no.
would be Rye Beach Avenue.
Right.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello,
Right.
hello.
Yeah.
You're proposing 2.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I'm trying
One,
to figure out this, where this
that
one is.
one is at the corner of Rye Beach and Forest.
And is there a ride
And
down
the other
Park
one that
sign?
has the metal gate is the main entrance gate off Dearborn.
Right, and I'm just confused.
Yes, and,
I think this would be
yeah.
Well, we could
we
say
could solve
put an
that
arrow
by, put
on
an
it.
arrow.
Yeah, I'm
Put
just
an
saying,
arrow.
my point is parking off Dearborn or
Yeah.
whatever, like, I just,
Russ,
Yeah.
is there a
Maybe
ride
it's
down
not
Park sign? I think I saw it when I drove by tonight and looked, and now for some reason I'm doubting myself.
At the corner of
Dear-
Rye Beach.
Rye Beach is, yes. Yes. It's just not pictured here.
so this is where it dead ends, so there's no, okay, I'm less concerned now that I know where this is.
Yeah.
Cause there's nowhere you can drive there anyway, you can still put it down for parking.
Wait,
No, I think it's their responsibility to put it in a place where people will be driving by and realize, oh, there's a restaurant there. Let's go and support the restaurant.
When you enter the park, there's no way to drive into the park there, right?
right,
No,
so you're
correct.
here.
So it's,
Correct.
so
They'll have to go to the
they'll
park
have to go
entrance.
down, right,
Yeah.
Russ, that sign, correct me if I'm wrong, is on the gate, is that on the gate where, on Forest and Rye Beach Avenue, like where you turn to end, like where the triathlon turn to end, go into the park?
Yeah,
Isn't
that
that
single
what it is?
sign, that
The single sign? Yeah. Right.
No. Yeah, no, it is here. Right, we're not, that's not the one we're confused about, at least I'm not.
yeah, I'm not concerned about that, this makes a ton of sense, right where it is, cause you're pulling in the park.
The question is whether you want a large sign, Barley Beach House, that's the question.
Are they open are they gonna be open this winter?
Yes.
So they should have something.
I personally thought
say
the sign was big, but, I spoke to Josh, he didn't have a problem with it. Nothing.
It's not gonna be lit,
It looks
right?
nice, it's the same
that okay?
style as our sign.
Lighting on, right? Is it gonna
No
be
lighting.
I've seen zero discussion of lighting. But I think it's in everybody's best interest that the restaurant thrive. And that frankly, this is the time the community goes. In fact, I was there this past Saturday and the place was filled with people from the local community.
You wanna use the microphone? Why not? think that's a question for the commission to do. We don't have really public hearings. People can comment on it. Well,
That's why I'm asking, so on the one that's on Dearborn, it's the same size as the Rytown Park sign, it looks the same. And I think, it's the entrance to the park, I don't have a problem with that one. The other one, I just wanna confirm, there is a Rytown Park sign, there's already something that looks like this right there, right, Russ?
I think there is.
I know, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
drove by, it's
Was it on the other side of it?
no, it's either in here in the just superimposed, or it's on the other side.
I expect that that's what they did, just to render it. They're not proposing taking ours down.
Right, I'm wondering if I can see it on Google.
So I go to the park probably more than any person other than Russ in this entire room, because I'm there 3 times every day. I live across the street from the park. It is a very large Welcome to Rydetown Park sign on the corner of Rye Beach Avenue and Forest Avenue.
Right.
So all I would do is I would advise you all to make sure you really understand before they purchase something or put something up, how the hell they're ever going to have a sign that large right next to it. It's got to be substantially smaller. It should not be the same size as the Welcome to Rydetown Park sign.
And it's just weird.
It's a big sign.
Yeah. I also think it's weird.
It's almost nicer if you put it at the end of Rye Beach Avenue where people walk up from Playland and you have the other sign that says Welcome to Rydetown Park and then it said Barley Beach House this way, where you're walking.
You would need, direction. So that, I was thinking that was there, and then I would say you would want a little more than.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing, having one sign, Welcome to Rydetown Park, and the Barley Beach House restaurant.
And Deb, did they mention anything about,
Have one big sign, yeah, something in there.
You don't need this in here anyway. Just put Princess down and.
Yeah.
did they mention anything about lights? Because if they're open this time of year, and they will be open in the evenings, are they looking for lights on these signs for, to show that they're there?
They made no mention of light, but you're right, it does stand to logic, but,
I agree, the sign is the size as our park sign. It should be smaller, and again, I was thinking, it's gonna be a little sound, some sort of light.
Guys,
Yeah, good,
let's each talk individually, out loud. You have something to say, Fritz?
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, I agree that it's quite a large sign, being open all year round. I don't know if they need it illuminated in some fashion, if they're using it to spotlight the restaurant, there's questions here that we don't have, and the applicant is not here before us, so I think a discussion should be held with the Barley Beach House. I wouldn't be ready to approve it right now.
No, I think we should have further discussion, and what I was thinking exactly what Jeff brought up is have a single sign, nice sign, that has both the park name and the restaurant on it. Jason?
The only issue with that is that if you were to get a change in the name of the restaurant, or who was managing the restaurant, or a redesign of either logo, then you're talking about replacing the entire sign.
You are, but it would be at their cost.
So, that's right.
Yeah, if you can consolidate it, I think that's cleaner, and
It
it
is.
also shows that it's part of the park, it's not separate from the park, and it's what makes the park great and vibrant, so I
Right.
agree.
And we're all interested in the Barley Beach House being successful.
Yeah.
Okay? Very good. So to be continued. Thank you, Julie.
okay, and would that be the case for the sign at the entrance of?
Both signs.
Both signs, okay.
Okay, we have a management report, and it's submitted. Russ, you have anything to add to the management report? We do want to mention the Fall Festival again.
Yeah,
Nothing to add, Russ? Okay. The Fall Festival is Sunday, October 20th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we have a flyer in the packet, which I'm sure will be circulated around the area. And we have a lot of sponsors, including the Friends of Rye Town Park, the Friends of Edith Reed, the Rye Arts Center, Ridgeway Garden Center, John Zicka, who does gardening for us, Central Street Service, Down to Earth Market, Labella Electric, Lularizza, Nat and Sammy Baby Goods, and the Barley Beach House. All sponsors. Jamie?
We would be remiss if we didn't also say thank you to the Friends of the Rye Free Reading Room, because they're actually bringing a storyteller to us
Great.
that day.
Terrific.
For those kids that need a little downtime.
Good.
The flyer, it's been posted on Facebook, it's been sent to the Rye Town Parks Alliance. Thank you.
Okay.
And
So,
volunteers welcome.
um,
I'd like to point out that in your binders, there's a financial statement that we obtained from our accountant late this afternoon.
It's a
And
draft.
it's very much a draft. These numbers are really in process. So please take them as an inference of where we are, but not in blood. At the moment, we are showing an operating surplus of $110,934. So, which is
that will decrease because we have expenses from now to the end of the year and very little, if any, revenue.
correct. Any questions?
Okay. On our resolutions, before we get to the resolutions, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on two of our capital projects. First, the roof of the bathhouse. Construction is continuing. It is constant, moving forward, and I'm very hopeful that we can get done by the beginning of December. Along with that, Assemblyman Otis has secured for us an additional $250,000 to subsidize the cost of the roof replacement, and we all thank Steve for that. He worked assiduously to get that money for us. We have some paperwork to be done, but he assures us that we will be getting the money. Okay. The seawall is moving forward. We had a pre-construction meeting today at the town offices, and MTS, which is our general contractor for the job, is going into mobilization this Thursday. And construction will commence formally as soon as we have secured the building permit, which has been applied for. So that is moving. Construction period is 90 days, subject to the weather. If we have storms or extra cold weather, that will delay the pouring of the concrete. However, we're very hopeful to be completed by substantially completed by the end of the year, and totally completed certainly before the next beach season commences. With that, we have a couple of resolutions. The first one is authorizing the Park Commission President to negotiate with Verizon to install interior communications equipment in the tower building for public safety purposes and efficient parking lot operations. One of the problems, I think everybody who goes to the beach is aware that we have very poor telecommunication services. and it's actually a dangerous condition because it's very difficult to reach 911 when we need to. In addition, our new parking system communicates with each other, with the license plate readers and et cetera, and is dependent on telecommunications services for its efficient operation. We've had a couple of meetings with Verizon, and in lieu of putting a very large cell tower on the park, they came up with the idea of putting interior communications equipment in the tower building that would not be observable from the outside, and yet would enable the park to have proper communications. So this resolution just gives me the authorization to commence negotiations. Any agreement, of course, would be subject to approval of the commission and have to go through any regulatory applications. The first step that Verizon would have to take would be to send their engineers to the tower building to see if the tower is sufficiently strong to hold whatever equipment they want to put in there, and to design something to come back to us with to show us what it would look like for approval. So with that, may I have a motion and a second?
I just want to mention that, I agree we have really terrible reception. I think as long as this is in compliance with the City of Rice Chapter 196, which I think that it is, then we will support this. My other comment is only that we've had a lot of experience with Verizon Live, and some of their sort of aesthetic considerations are unimpressive in my opinion. So I want to be very careful that whatever this is interior and totally screened, and not in a way that
I agree with you, and that's why I said that has to go through the permitting process. As I say, this resolution only authorizes me to negotiate and to hopefully get a determination that it can be done physically, and if it can be done physically, to have a design drawing. And then we'll take it from there.
But, I'm all for moving this resolution, but I agree with Emily. Definitely have to comply with the local ordinance of the City of Rye, and as long as Verizon's aware of that. But again, I support this.
And I think, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that for municipalities making an application, there is a shorter process.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion as amended.
And I'll second it, but amending that date.
Amended that it complies with the City of Rye ordinances.
Well, I think that goes without saying.
Right.
I think that's, they have to do it. I personally just authorizing the president to start negotiations. We're gonna get the final, see-through of whatever they're coming through with, as far as the aesthetics and where it's gonna be placed. So I think, hopefully at that time, Mr. President, that they are aware of, the compliance with the local laws of the City of Rye, and I'm sure we'll be okay.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they know how to make
So,
the application.
You moved on it? I'll second. I don't think we need
Okay.
another, but I'll move on that.
Please call the
So
roll.
there's no amendment.
No.
Commissioner Falenka?
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Souza? President Zuckerman?
Yes. Next resolution is to authorize Eastern Architects to provide historic architectural archaeological services in the building of the seawall as required by New York State and FEMA. What this is about is that, as we are all aware, Rytown Park is on the list of historic is on the Register of Historic Places, and both FEMA and New York State require that when you dig things up, you have to make sure that there are no artifacts that have to be preserved, and so we have to hire an architect to be on site during an excavation period.
And this is, reimbursed at a 90/10 rate?
Yes, it is.
Do we,
Is there a cap on this?
That was just
No,
the same question.
there is no cap at the present time. The estimate is about 10 days.
I was gonna say that.
Can we put a cap in for 10 days so that it has to come back if we...
We can amend it.
The issue might be if you put if after 10 days is when our commission meetings are held, and we don't want to hold up the construction while we wait for a commission meeting
Well,
or
I
a
don't
farm
think
to
that,
go.
I think I have a construction schedule and let me just see something. It's just, oh here, it's right in front of me.
what kind of artifacts are we looking for?
Indian
None.
artifacts.
We're looking for
Dinosaurs.
none.
Actually, we're
no
hoping-
artifacts.
We're hoping that we don't find any.
I mean,
Treasures that will help us pay the 10%.
yeah, right,
There we
too.
go.
Actually, we've been given some level of encouragement that New York State may cover the 10.
Okay, good, yeah. I mean, yeah, like, even, I mean, if you want to give yourself a little leeway, you're capping it, what, 10 days, 17, if you go to $20,000 cap, and that will give an extra day or two in case you need it. You wouldn't want this to be, if this does go over the construction schedule, we would want to know about it. And I don't think we'd want to keep accruing an expense
Daily
when
rate,
you didn't
yeah.
know that they're like doubling their allotted time for this, right?
No, I agree. In fact, I was trying to pin down the contractor to exactly how many days they're going to be digging. It's uncertain because whether, for example, whether they're needed for pile driving operations as opposed to preparing the surface for pile driving and removing the stone wall. Certainly, removing the riprap, which is all those rocks in front of the wall, removing the stone wall and preparing the surface for the pile driving would be necessary, and that is 16 days right there. Although I spoke to the contractor and they're going to try to do it faster.
But does that require this sort of supervision as well?
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
So 16 days, not, I mean, it has to be. It's pretty clear.
And do you have any insight, Jim?
What's that?
Do you have any insight?
But how long it might take?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the contractor. But they're not, one go hand in hand. So if the contractor's not working, and there's a delay, she's not gonna have to come out. So there has to be a coordinated effort between those two entities. I think the 10 days probably should cover it.
Why don't we put 10 days? We'll put 10,
But there should be a cap on it.
17,500. Okay. Okay. And
Yeah, they find something to stop and there's, come and all that stuff. It's just, it's a
And
circle.
don't
Not
forget-
to exceed 17,500.
Right. And we're going to have, when is our next meeting? The 19th of November?
Yes.
So hopefully we may have a bill in hand before that meeting so that we could see exactly where we are.
Excellent.
Okay? So as amended, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Falenka.
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro. Acting Commissioner Klein.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Souza. President Zuckerman.
Yes. And the last construction resolution is authorizing the President of the Commission to enter into contract with Carlin Simpson and Associates for field engineering and construction services relating only to the micropiles. And this is a specialized engineering firm. They are the ones who designed the micropiles. And this is separate and distinct from Race Engineering, which is overseeing the entire project. This is sort of a sub-engineering contract dealing only with the micropiles. And I think this is necessary. I was on the phone today with, at the construction meeting, they weren't there, Mr. Simpson from, the firm, from Carlin Simpson, yes, Bob Simpson of Carlin Simpson was on the phone with us, and their duties are only related to the micropiles, and they will be coordinating with Race and the general contractor as to when they are to come out and do the
And Lisa.
Yeah, but not necessarily at the same time.
Not necessarily.
Should we cap that too?
Well, this has to be in accordance with the actual work of the pile, so
That's correct.
it's gonna be, that's it, it's the pile inspection. So whenever the pile is driving, the inspector has to be there, so it's kind of already, it's already maxed out by the task is it's limited task.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is at $500 a day, and if it's the pile driving operations are 11 days, so it's not a really big number. That's also reimbursable. Okay.
I move on the resolution.
Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Blanca?
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Souza? President Zuckerman?
Yes. And our last resolution is,
A lot of people in that project.
there are, is to authorize, check a resolution out. To authorize the commission president to contract with Pond Connection to control invasive species at Rytown Park. And this is a result of the grant that received for $12,000. The grant will pay for 2/3 of it, so the grant will cover $8,000 of the estimate is, I think it actually comes out to exactly $12,000. So the grant will cover $8,000 and we will have to pay for $4,000
Over the course of 3 years.
over the course of 3 years.
Okay, so just confirming, because in the resolution it says the DEC grant total is $12,000. Should it say 8? Or was this one of those where we're splitting it with Crawford?
Yes, correct.
So
So it's $100,000 over, the grant itself is, you're only paying for the portion that's Rytown Park Commission, the town will pay for the rest.
But if this 12,000, does that mean we're paying?
That's $12,000 that's being spent at Rytown Park, of which, the DEC will pay 8 and the commission will pay 4.
In this case, we're probably not worded.
It's right, not worded correctly. Julie, you're correct.
So beautiful. It's the DEC grant and the price match.
So it's either the cost the cost is $12,000, the DEC grant covers 8, or we're paying 4, or else we're paying
Well, the
15,000.
match on the grant is 2 to 1. That's how we calculate that. In the grant application, we specifically submitted a project which is getting rid of the, what are those damn grasses called again? No.
Phragmites.
Phragmites. And the proposal submitted in the grant application, which came from Pond Lake, was it will cost $12,000 to treat the Phragmites over the course of 3 years. And that's exactly the proposal they submitted, which was what was in the application and approved.
Okay, so I think we just need to say the whereas, should probably say whereas the cost of the project totals $12,000. I don't know how we reword this, but I probably should. Well, where's the DEC
Why don't we
grant?
take the DEC grant, the total out? DEC grant will cover items such as
Well, the DEC grant covering, just say covering 2/3 of the $12,000 will, or
or you
something.
can say number, you know?
We don't have to wordsmith it, can we just like say, like that somebody will figure it out?
Why don't we just say, whereas the DEC grant will cover items, leave the total money, leave all the money out. Whereas the DEC grant will cover items such as cutting, removal, et cetera, et cetera. Now, whereas we wish to contract with Pond Lake, and execute on the funded items covered by the grant, see the attached proposal. Now, therefore, because we're gonna have to, when we do it, we're
You still want an amount, because there's money, I would still say the total project expected to cost $12,000,
Well, the
capped
amount-
at $12,000.
well, the amount of the estimate, the amount of the cost is $12,000. So we're gonna submit, we're gonna pay the $12,000 and then submit to get 8,000 back. So we don't have to put that in the resolution. We're just authorizing a contract for $12,000.
Right, but if you took the 12,000 out, so I would just put it back in, whereas the project is anticipated to cost $12,000, insert that clause somewhere.
And the DEC grant will cover two-thirds of total cost.
Yeah, so whereas
For such items as,
whereas the entire project will cost $12,000 over 3 years, and DEC grant is expected to pay two-thirds of
I mean, you could probably even just simplify it by just saying in that third whereas the DEC grant covering two-thirds of the total cost, and then your next whereas, add the 12,000 in there because it says see attached proposal estimate.
Good idea, Jason.
There we go.
Whereas the DEC grant covering two-thirds of the total cost.
We'll cover item.
Got it.
Or just put in a parenthetical, $12,000 next to total cost, right?
No, because that
So then
doesn't,
it's the two-thirds.
you don't know
Right,
what's
right,
up.
right.
And it's,
Okay, so I've got the first whereas the DEC grant covering the two-thirds of the total cost will cover items such as cutting, removal, herbicide treatment, monitoring, et cetera. And you've got whereas the Wright Town Park Commission wishes to contract with Pond Lake Connection to administer and execute on the funded items covered by the grant.
see attached proposal.
Now therefore.
Total, no, wait. See attached proposal estimate totaling $12,000.
Yeah.
Yes. Proposal / estimate, yeah.
Okay.
Totaling
Get rid of the estimate. It's not an estimate anymore, it's a proposal, right?
Correct.
So I get rid of estimate.
Totaling $12,000, now therefore be it.
Yes, love it.
Okay, we've got it.
Oh my God.
Motion and a second, please.
Teamwork makes the dream
Second.
work. Yeah.
Wait, who made the motion?
Emily motion, Jason second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Falenka.
Yes.
Commissioner Salanitro.
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Klein.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd.
yes,
Acting Commissioner Souza. President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. Our last item. Elon has returned.
oh, wow.
A report and analysis on parking and beach revenue. And just as a background, we have been trying to get figures, and it's hard because the system is new this year. But we are attempting to really hone in on how people are using the park. Are they coming to the beach? Are they not coming to the beach? Are they parking? Are they walking? Where are they buying permits? Where is our revenue coming from? Because when we know where it's coming from, then we will be able to adjust our rates accordingly. A lot of the residents, non-residents too, but we're mostly concerned with the residents, have been complaining about the cost of going to the beach. And Commissioner Falenka, the mayor of Portchester, has, I think, been inundated with comments, right, Fritz?
Correct.
About it. And so we really need to take a very hard look on what we want to accomplish. And I'll say to look at the business model that we have. Obviously, if we raise the rates high enough, we're going to have fewer people go to the beach. Do we want this beach to be amenable to all members of the public and people not say, I can't afford to go to the beach, which I think is the way most of us feel. We want the park to be used. We want the park itself to be used. We want the beach to be used and people to have an enjoyable time there. So we need to analyze how and where the money's coming from. And I'm not going to say that this is a final meeting. I would like at the November meeting to hone in on what the future business plan might be and determine how we want the park to be used next year. So, and we'll have, I think, even better figures at the next meeting. One of the problems we've been having in getting the figures is that we've had a problem with some of the transactions from the credit cards. You could explain this better. The accountants have had a difficult time reconciling where exactly the credit cards are, what the bank is putting in. We're not losing money that way, but it's been hard to reconcile.
This is all really startup problems with the technology and getting all the pieces and the parties between the merchant account and the bank and the various service providers to get all the technology flowing directly as it was designed to do has not been
Smooth.
Without bumps,
Glitches.
which we are working out, but the result has been a slow process in getting final numbers. So that's what we're working on.
We
now.
had one situation where people were paying money into the kiosk, and the money was there. It was put in the bank, but it wasn't being registered in the bank. So we didn't get credit for the money in the bank account, even though we got the money.
Well, it was going into the merchant processor,
Right.
but the merchant processor wasn't putting it in our bank.
Right. So hopefully that's ironed out, and by next month we'll have it all figured out. But Elon has been working with it. Elon, you want to present?
Absolutely. And unlike my previous presentations, I guarantee this one is going to be less than 5 minutes. So just some quick figures on permits and revenue, and then also fee considerations going into the discussion that Gary just introduced. So this is a slide from the prior presentation that I did. Just to bring it up again, we have for the resident and non-resident permits, the single, senior, and family permits. It's a staggering difference between who's holding the permit between residents and non-residents. Residents make up approximately 80% of permit holders compared to non-residents. And this slide was also in the last presentation, again, just to bring it up again, including all permits, about approximately 25 or 24% this year specifically of permit holders were non-residents. This is for all permits, including open water, including annual parking, everything else.
Hold on, why are you comparing it to where's 2018 this?
The data was not. We've got it, and Elon will work on it for next month.
Right.
We didn't have the 2018 numbers for this analysis.
In the way that we needed them. The numbers are there, but not in the way
Right.
it's being presented.
And the thing is, with 2017, between 2016 and 2018, there were no changes in fees or in the structures of permits. So 2017 is still, it's not 2018, but it's still something good to look at as a comparison. This is total parking, beach, and permit revenue. The last time we saw this graph, it was as of July 31st, and the prior years were also as of July 31st. So in the next 3 slides, you'll see a breakdown of these. Permit revenue has gone up significantly because of the increase in the cost of the permits, but people are still coming in and buying. Again, a lot of them are residents who are coming in and still have that interest for the park. Parking revenues came in approximately as projected. just a little slightly under what had been projected from July 31st. And beach revenues also slightly under, but still in that range of between 400,000 and 450,000.
And on the parking and the beach revenues, that reflects the daily rates, not the permits.
Yes, correct. I forgot to mention that. Those are both the daily rates. Those are those who do not have the permit, because if you have the permit, the parking and the beach are complementary. This graph right here shows the breakdown in percentages of the total revenue between permit, daily beach, and daily parking. As you can see, for the permit revenue, 62% of it comes from residents. The daily beach passes, 82% of that revenue comes from non-residents. And it's even higher for daily parking. For those who are not permit holders, 95% of that comes from non-residents. Now, the reason why I introduced this graph is for the following slide as a precursor to show where the revenue for the park is coming from.
Is this supposed to match up with this, those numbers?
No.
No. For the purpose of the presentation, this would be the last slide. The following slides are just a breakdown of how I got these, how I calculated these numbers. But essentially, what you need to know from here is, with the on the left side, with the current setup for the fees, $10 per person for residents on the weekdays, $15 on the weekends and holidays. Daily beach pass revenue came in about $424,000, and there were 5,200 daily beach passes sold. That doesn't include the daily beach pass that comes with the purchase of parking, that first initial one. That's separate out, separate transactions. If we wanted to consider, just as something, as a possible proposal, if we want to go to $0 for beach $0 for beach for residents.
By the way, that was my request. What would happen if we did not charge beach fees for residents and made that a 0? What would the result be? And of course, we could do that, or we could do something in between.
Right.
But just as an example.
Just as an example, if we went to $0 for beach for residents, it would be reduced down from $423,000 to $334,000. That revenue from the beach specifically would still come from non-residents, because again, going back a few slides, I believe it was 83% of daily beach revenue. There we go. 82% comes from non-residents. So you still have a significant revenue coming in. Correct. Correct.
But is that you're still paying for parking, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I only ask because if I'm a resident and the beach fee is 0, why am I buying a permit?
So, if I may, that's what the second half of this, the bottom half of this, the permit revenue will also go down. Single permits, senior permits, and family permits on the bottom left, that resulted in about $257,000 in revenue this year, with about 3,036 permits sold from those three categories, from residents and non-residents. On the right side, permit fees for residents, if we went to $0 for a beach, basically free beach admission for residents, you could assume seniors would still have to pay for parking. If they wanted an annual parking permit, ideally you may want to have a lower rate, because right now seniors have lower rates. So assuming they would have $30 for an annual parking pass, and all non-seniors $125, which is the current annual parking permit that we have, it's projected it would be about $197,000 in revenue, and about 2,900 permits sold. So in sum, on that last line, you could see the difference. If you went to $0 for beach admission, you would lose approximately $148,000.
Call it 150.
$150,000. Now, you have to put a little bit of an asterisk to this, because this is under many assumptions and under the basic assumption that you're going to have $0 for beach admission for residents. If you don't go to zero, at this point, the Wright Town Park's resident fees for both daily admission and permits was increased by approximately 53%, the actual fee rate between last year and this year, 53%. So if you just cut it back to last year's rate, or if you cut it just a little bit lower but not to zero, you may actually see revenue go up because that top right, the daily beach pass is sold by residents, $7,200. That $7,200 is reflective of the 2018 beach passes sold for residents. It's going to be a lot more than that if it's $0 for beach admission, because back in 2018 we were still charging $7 or $8 for beach admission for residents. If that goes down to zero, I'm not quite sure how to calculate that, but it's going to be a lot more than $7,200. So if you just reduce it, if you don't go down to $0 for beach admission, you may actually see revenue increase overall because you're going to have a lot more customers.
Just that constant tension between volume and...
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially supply and demand.
Right.
Does the Commission have any questions?
Angela, thank you very much. Yeah.
It's a completely, it's an apples and oranges comparison, right? So this is coming out of our financial statements from the accountant. This is sort of big picture analysis coming out of data that's only parking and beach. These revenue figures will have the restaurant funds, the facility rental.
Numbers, and we're seeing,
Right.
we had a budget where it said beach admission $700,000. We've got a $258,000 deficit on that line, which sort of takes the whole thing, right? We're not running a facility deficit, and I just wanted to reconcile that with this, which it seems we can't do.
Right, it wasn't intended to match up.
The reason I asked Alon to do this, as I said earlier, is we as a commission, all of us, have to determine how the beach should be used. And I'm sure people who see this presentation may have ideas, residents and commissioners, as to what the business model should be going forward. And obviously, if there's a deficit, then the city and the town would have to make up that deficit with their tax revenue. So it's a question I'm posing as to how should the park be approached in terms of the balance between making the most revenue as possible and making it open to as many people as possible, especially residents. And what I'm asking basically is for the commissioners to think about that question, and hopefully next month to come up with suggestions as to the direction that we should go. Obviously, we could leave the rates exactly as they are, or we could increase some rates, decrease other rates. I suggested a model of zero beach fees for residents. We don't have to do that. We can make it $3 or $5. We could leave it the same, as I say. We could increase the rate for non-residents who basically pay most of the parking now. And I think that it's just something we need to think about how we want to approach it in the future.
Maybe you could do the sensitivity analysis, which is what you've done here by going to zero, but what you indicated is, there's that balance, there's a point where you want to hit that perfect equilibrium, right? So to do that sensitivity analysis to see, right, here we are at one extreme, zero is the other extreme. If we're $5, if we're $3, what does that look like, and what does that mean in the aggregate, right? I think that would be useful.
Absolutely.
I think that's absolutely right. And also, we have two other entities that have to be concerned with this, and that's the town of Rye and the city of Rye and their budgets.
Yeah.
Because
Because I'm worried about this. Right now, the thing is, it's a deficit of $167,000. I know part of that, I don't have budget. We don't have budget in Rye, right? Anything else part of
Okay,
that.
so it's $167,000 off of where we predicted we would be in the budget. But at the moment, we have $110,000, $934 surplus.
Why isn't it here? Why don't we
It is,
see that?
from the bottom line. It's the second to the right column at the bottom, where it says the column labeled actuals. At the bottom, we have a surplus of $110,000.
Right, but
call it
our revenue
$111,000.
line- But I know that's where we are at this point in time, but
Yeah.
our expenses will continue for the
Correct.
next 3 months, and our revenue line could stop.
Pretty
So
much.
if you project that out, we're looking at a deficit of $167,000 at the end of the year, when all is said and done. And so I just know that the city of Rye has not budgeted its portion of that weight to carry, and so it's concerning to me.
Well, you're looking at the last column, which is actual versus budget. That's not a prediction of where we'll be by the end of the year.
What is, one of the things that I would like to know as we think about the parking and beach permit, discussion, proposal, where are we making up this $110,000 surplus? Because, it looks like parking, we were down from what we expected.
I guess I don't see why that far column is not what I should be looking at, because you look at the pro rata, I'm assuming that means it's adopted budget up until now, right?
Right.
So so I should be comparing column B with column C, or 2 and 3, and we still have a huge
Well,
delta.
I think the key question I think you're asking is what's our burn rate, right?
Yeah.
How fast are we burning through the cash we have?
Because that $110,000 is going to go if you're averaging in your expense line. What's your expense total?
The question is what are we spending now on a month to month basis between now and January, right? And the answer is we have a rapidly reducing amount that we're spending on staff, right? Because those are essentially our expenses at this point, right? We are continuing to pay staff.
So yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it would be nice to actually see if this is not. I would like to be able to compare this last
Well,
column with.
excuse me,
Go ahead.
that's my question, I'm gonna pick up what you said. When are we gonna see the final on the 2018 budget, and when will this draft become a final that we could kind of make some comparisons to?
The final on the 2018 budget
Yeah.
we have.
Where?
he's talking about the 2019
Oh,
budget.
no, this
Oh.
is as of September 2019, what about last year? Last season?
We have our audited
Last
financials
season.
we were accepted. They
Sorry?
we had those months ago.
Yeah,
We've
but
got
I
them.
don't have it here, I'm just looking at 2019 draft.
Okay.
We're trying to get see what happened in 2018
Okay.
versus 2019.
Understood.
That
What
would
we'll
be
do
helpful-
for next
helpful to
month,
the commission.
Fritz,
Yeah.
Julie, for next month, we'll have the figures all reconciled, hopefully, and we'll get those figures. This was a draft with what they had, and I hesitate to even put it in there, but
But we want to know. I mean, we're going into budget season.
Right,
We all are, right?
we are.
So I just want to.
no, absolutely right. No, we don't want to be surprised. I think that what we're projecting, based on my conversation with the accountant this afternoon, is that that will still come in with the surplus. I think near 100,000. We're showing how much in the till right now?
At the moment,
168.
well, we have about $111,000
$111.
surplus right now,
Right.
and we have staff to pay between now and the end of the year.
Maybe 50,000 less, or so.
I'm not
So-
going to say a number without knowing.
The only thing I could guess at is that we're going to run a slight surplus.
Okay, I'm not going to belabor this, but just doing the math, looking at this, like if you're taking if you're just talking wages and salaries as the expense, and you're talking about a 500 plus almost $534,000 expense, and that's 3/4 of it.
Well, we have fewer and fewer staff all the time, right? So the bulk of the staff have been laid off at this point. We have a park director, we have,
Yeah,
you know,
lifeguards are
very
gone,
few.
right? You still have groundsmen, you still have,
Right, but nothing close
No,
to the
we
number
don't
of
have the
guardsmen that we
rangers,
had
we
at the
don't-
high
we
school.
don't-
knowing what that is maybe makes me
Right.
Asha.
Yeah, so that's why I'm
No.
trying to assure you.
That's why,
That
that's
we
why,
have, you know, at this point, we're at, you know, well into October. We have a skeleton maintenance staff. We have a couple of security guards on at any given shift, and at the end of the month, we drop down to 1 per shift. We drop down in maintenance to 1 per shift until we close the weekend after Thanksgiving.
Right, just to, the restaurant concession, that revenue line. This is
That
because-
actually will continue paying, because they
Right.
keep being
Right.
open.
They're paying on a monthly or is it quarterly? How are they paying? Didn't we?
Generally,
Percentage of gross revenue.
correct,
Right,
it's
but-
6% of gross revenue, so they have paid, they were completely on time, and consistent with the minimum annual guarantee.
Okay.
And at that, now they're waiting for the final math on the, if you remember, we give them an allowance for parking.
Right.
And so that's a calculation that we're going to be making.
And then, do we need to do anything knowing now that they're operating year round? Will we need to change our
No.
timing calculations or anything?
No.
No, there's nothing in the, in fact, we assumed the concession agreement that they would be open a longer season.
What was the revenue on the summonses with the license plate reader? Do we have any numbers on that for this year?
I don't have them, and it wasn't very much.
Did
Because
we,
that was, of the pieces that fell into place and really got going. Did you raise your hand, Jeff, do you know? No. Okay, that was the last piece. Yeah, hundreds,
no, it's in the hundreds.
in the few hundreds,
Okay, because
very
I think
low.
we anticipated more based upon,
We did, and
Oh,
that
nice.
actually goes back to our our
wiring
our cell
Oh.
service infrastructure challenges.
okay.
That was the last piece to fall into place.
All right,
So updated financials by next meeting or earlier if they can get out.
yes.
We are going into budget.
No, I agree with you. In fact, I spoke to them today. I'd like to have it at least a week before the next meeting so that you can all look at it and we can take it from there.
Gary, can I ask one question for the community?
Sure.
How would Debbie or whoever, Russ, like input or ideas given to the Parking Solutions Committee, who I imagine will be getting back together to figure out some of these scenarios and sort of see what's the best way to move forward? How would you like to receive that kind of communications? Because I have lots of suggestions, but I don't want to take your time.
No, I think that you should send any suggestions directly to Debbie and she could circulate it to the commission. I mean, the whole idea is to get ideas. I mean, you are a resident of the city of Brooklyn. And so anything that you or your friends, your neighbors, would come forward with would obviously have a monetary implication, not only for the park, but for the city and for the town. Again, you know, it's in terms of the park fees, it's a question of how much pay-as-you-go do you want, as opposed to how much should everybody be able to enjoy the beach to the maximum, let's say without paying anything. And there's a midpoint somewhere in there. It might not be the midpoint, but there's a point of balance that is ultimately up to the commission to determine what that point is, but certainly with community input, because other than the non-residents, everybody else is a taxpayer. And there will be budget implications for the commission, for the city, and for the town. So, with that, if there's any comments from the commissioners, may I have a motion to adjourn?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting is November 19th, and it may be at Crawford.
Fingers crossed.